Sean and Darren here with another bite size for you now, answering more of the questions. Please keep those questions coming in because it's always good. We're getting loads on the socials.
We are getting a lot of questions.
Jonathan and Rita, all the way from Birmingham in the United Kingdom, just dropped a message in actually because the buying process is kind of different to the UK, isn't it? Let's talk timescales of the buying a property.
Yeah, they wanted to know how long it takes.
Exactly.
Again, it's one of those with no definitive answer. Depends on if there's any complications. What normally happens is you look at various properties as you would back in your home country. You find one that you like and you decide that you want to make an offer. And with the guidance of your agent, you'll make what should be an offer that's tempting. And with a bit of toing and froing, a bit of negotiation, we get to a price that's acceptable for both parties. At that point, and obviously that can take minutes, hours or days. It depends on the vendors. We have some vendors who say, oh, I need to speak to my 15 family members, and you'll like, go away for 3 days. And you're like, come on, I've got a hot buyer here who wants to buy your property and you're going to think about it for a few days. So we always advise both buyers and sellers to act quickly. But it does become a bit of a dance, that negotiation. Everyone understands the process of negotiation. So that normally takes, I don't know, say 24 hours to get to a price that's agreed. At that point, you then sign a reservation contract. You sign it, the vendor signs it, and at that point, a reservation deposit is paid. Depends on the value of the property, what that deposit is. Normally, it's about €6,000. For properties over $1 million, it can be 1%. But what that does is at that point where all those things happen, so the reservation contract is signed by both parties, the deposit is paid, at that point, the property is taken off the market. And I think it's a really good system actually, because in the UK, for instance, you can take a property off the market just with verbal intent. And okay, you might then instruct your lawyer and there's expenses involved in that, but you don't actually normally have to put a deposit down on a resale property in the UK. So you can be left without any monetary commitment as a vendor. Your property's off the market, but actually there's no money down. So here it's slightly different. I think it's a really good system. So that money is only refundable if there's a legal problem with the property. So if your lawyer finds that the house doesn't have a license, should never have been built, it's going to be embargoed or torn down, obviously you get your deposit back. So that all generally happens very quickly. Agreement is reached on the price, reservation forms are signed by both parties, reservation deposit paid, everyone goes, oh. That can happen in a day or two. There's then two important milestones after that. The first one is what we call the private purchase contract, which gives the lawyers some space to do their due diligence and find out all about the property, check that everything is in order. And at that point where the private purchase contract is signed, the sum of 10% is normally paid, less the reservation deposit that you already paid. So that's when it becomes pretty serious, because at that point where you're paying 10% and signing the private purchase contract, it binds the two parties together. Because if you pull out, you lose your 10%, which is often a big chunk of money. If the vendor pulls out, they also are penalised as well. So that's when it becomes serious. And the PPC, we call it, the private purchase contract, and the 10% is normally done within anything between a week or 4 weeks of the reservation.
It's pretty quick, isn't it?
It's pretty quick, and it depends on, and this is where it's important as a buyer to be really straight with us and say, look, I've got this money lined up, but this money I need to wait for. It's coming from this house sale or whatever, because then we can work on the deal that suits you. If we don't know that, we can't really, we can't get the best timescales for you. So let's say on average it's 2 to 3 weeks for private purchase contract. In the private purchase contract, there'll be the stipulated completion date. That can change on the agreement of both parties, but that's where we set out, okay, the completion is going to be 31st of August. No later than, and we all work towards completion.
Yeah, I think what's really nice here as well, it feels a bit more flexible, doesn't it? I mean, we've got some what we call long stops. And a long stop really is a future date that everyone's agreed on, and it could be a few months down the line, or it could be a few weeks.
Yeah.
So it kind of feels like it feels like there's more control than the UK. The UK, I've got some friends at the moment going through the sales process. Very stressful, big chain of people. But we do tend to find that with the second homes, the holiday homes and purchases over here, quite a lot they're ready to go, aren't they? There's no forward chains.
No, you don't get into a chain here. Yeah. That's the one thing that we don't have. I know half of the UK process is based on chains. And by chains, we mean that you can't buy something until you've sold your place. And then maybe the person buying your place needs to sell their, and it goes on. And sometimes you can end up with a chain eight or nine people long. And it just takes one of those links in the chain to to collapse, and the whole eight or nine transactions are off.
So stressful. Question for you.
Go on.
What's the quickest purchase you've ever brokered?
I think for reservation to completion, it was about 10 days, which is not, it's not impossible. If the lawyers are good and there's no big complications, normally what can hold it up between private purchase contract and and completion is if the buyer needs a mortgage.
Yeah.
Because we're in the middle of holiday season at the moment. That can hold the banks up because they have limited staff working. So what may have taken 3 or 4 weeks might take 8 weeks. So again, that's all factored in. If you need a mortgage, let us know at the outset. We can put you in touch with people very early on in the process who can get you almost pre-qualified. So if you see something you like and it's within budget, you can go for it knowing that you can get the funds. But obviously, if you're a difficult applicant, if you're self-employed or your accounts need to be presented as part of the mortgage application process, that can delay things a little bit. But as long as you're upfront and honest about that, there's no problem. So to answer the question, normally the average from reservation to completion is 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be a month, sometimes it can be 3 months. And if we have people who need a long stop, then it can go on for a little bit longer than that.
Hope that helps. That's answered a few questions. 10 days though, week and a half. It's all right, isn't it? Good stuff. Yeah, look at you. Great stuff. Keep those questions coming in. We'd love to hear any comments as well. So any experiences that you've had, perhaps you want to share with us. We always keep a check on what's being said, what's going on, and we'll always drop you a response back as well. Absolutely. Or indeed, any topics that you'd like us to share with you on the next Bite Size. We're here for you and here to answer any questions that you've got as well, even if you think they're a little bit silly. So from Sean and myself, till the next time, bye for now.
Bye-bye.